restaurant opened last summer in Waynesburg, and a yearly event returned to the county.
President Biden gave his State of the Union address, and the United States Air Force shot down a Chinese surveillance balloon. All that and more right here on WCTV.
And now, your 5 o'clock news on Channel 14.
Welcome into the newscast, live at 5. I'm Austin Bechtold.
And I'm Nick Staso. Dickey's Barbecue opened last August, just in time for the new school year. Keegan Robbie checked in to see how the business is going.
Standing outside of Dickey's Barbecue, a brand new restaurant here in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania at Greene County Plaza, located right beside Golden Walk. It's a new place for families and community members in the area to come enjoy drinks, great food, and just relax. This Dickey's Barbecue location was opened August 22nd by Cindy Yorio, who recently closed down O'Reilly's Pub in Mount Morris, which her and her husband owned for 28 years.
My parents, they used to own a bar restaurant in Mount Morris, and they thought, maybe an opportunity to bring something cool to Waynesburg, because we didn't have that many sit-down restaurants, especially places that sell beer and stuff like that too. So we thought it was a good opportunity to make more money and stuff. So it's been going pretty well.
The Yorio family aren't the only ones excited about this new location. Dickey's Barbecue gives students a chance to have more variety of food other than just the Benedum or the Beehive.
So I went to Dickey's a couple times, so I've gotten sandwiches, I've gotten wings, I go with somebody's. That you can get anything, so I recommend it's a pulled pork sandwich with fries, and they give you a big yellow cup. It's about that big. You can get iced tea, and if you're of age, you can get a beer. You can get anything you want there. It's a good overall experience. It's in a nice location too. It's not far from campus, and it's relatively cheap for college kids.
Not only is this Dickey's Barbecue location already busy, they plan to do a lot more with the location. As of recently, they opened up a new golf simulator, which Greene County members are enjoying already. From WCTV Channel 14, I'm Keegan Robbie.
A motorcycle swap meet once again returned to the Greene County Fairgrounds. Logan Lepiscopo has more.
It's the 35th annual motorcycle swap meet here at the Greene County Fairgrounds, and what more could you want than leather goods, motorcycle parts, and even clothing?
The Greene County Fairgrounds were packed on Sunday as the annual motorcycle swap meet came back to town. The event is always held on the first Sunday in February, and many bikers come to the event to get new parts for their rides and catch up since the last swap meet. I spoke with multiple vendors at the event. The first was Joe Smoody from Rice's Landing, PA. When asked about his favorite part of the event, he said,
I enjoy everything about the camaraderie of the people. It's good sales, good parts, and just very nice all day.
There was everything a motorcyclist could want at this event. Tools, motorcycle parts, t-shirts, hats, signs, jewelry, and everything else you could imagine a biker would need for their next ride. Vendors at the event ranged in time, being here from 1 year up to 20 years. I spoke with Rachel Angry, a local to the Waynesburg area that just began vending this year, but is no stranger to the event.
We've been customers for a lot of years.
How long have you been a customer here for?
Gosh, this is the 35th year this is running, so probably half of that.
Angry and her husband were at the event selling parts from their own bikes, scarves made out of Harley-Davidson t-shirts, and signs made out of old license plates. The swap meet held a 50-50 raffle in honor of Bobby Dieter, not only an avid motorcycle enthusiast and mechanic, but also the founder and organizer of the Greene County Swap Meet. While those people at the event may love their two-wheeled rides, I'm going to stick with my four-wheeler. Reporting for WCTV News, I'm Logan Lepiscopo.
Recently, students came together to discuss issues important to them. Courtesy of the Student Activities Board, Gwen Napier reports.
I'm standing outside of Stover 302, where the Stover scholars are speaking on the Supreme Court and what happens next for Students Speak.
Students Speak is an event put on by the Student Activity Board that lets students discuss topics that matter to them in front of their peers.
So I attended the last one. They did it about, I believe, the issues regarding court cases as well, actually. And I thought it was very interesting, very informative about current issues that all of us can know about. It's very broad information that applies to all of us, and especially as students, we're all growing in different ways, and maybe not all of us have access to media outlets or anything like that. But it definitely is very informative. It's very open to questions and different opinions.
Students not only get to hear about interesting topics, but they're also given lunch to enjoy while the students are speaking.
Today I spoke on the upcoming decision of the Supreme Court case of the Anthony Warhol Foundation Incorporated versus Goldsmith, which covers a copyright issue that is going to be very important in the future.
If you missed this Student Speak, make sure you catch the next one.
I'm Gwen Napier reporting for WCTV Channel 14 News.
A train derailment that spewed toxic chemicals in East Palestine nearly occurred in the backyard of one of the schools in the President's Athletic Conference. Geneva College, located in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, is only 12 miles from the site of the derailment, raising questions about what would happen if a school was in the danger zone following a derailment. Michael Humison, Director of Public Safety at Waynesburg University, said that Waynesburg would primarily follow the guidance of officials in Region 13 Task Force, which encompasses southwestern Pennsylvania.
Typically in a situation like that, they will reach out to us for assistance and maybe putting up a place for people to go to for treatment, possibly, or for housing.
That's all for campus and region news. When we come back, we'll have news from around the region.
This is producer Caleb Yager, and you are watching The Buzz.
Welcome back to the newscast, live at 5. President Joe Biden delivered a high-stakes State of the Union address at a critical time in his presidency. The president pitching his agenda and previewing a potential 2024 re-election bid to the nation. The focus, defending democracy and promoting bipartisanship to a narrowly divided Congress. Chris Newen has the key moments from this Tuesday night speech.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
For the first time in his presidency, Joe Biden stands before a Republican Speaker of the House to deliver his State of the Union address.
2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threat to the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
The divided Congress setting the stage for contentious battles ahead.
Power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere.
The shadow of investigations into his White House's handling of classified documents hung over the speech. Biden and his team have denied any wrongdoing. Still, he made the case that he and his party are best positioned for 4 more years of leadership.
Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back. Because choices we made in the last several years.
In the audience, Monterey Park shooting hero Brandon Tsai and the family of police brutality victim Tyree Nichols. The president returning to a major campaign theme as he argued for police reform and an assault weapons ban.
We all want the same thing. Neighborhoods free of violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Our children have a right to come home safely.
Newly elected Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders offering a sharp rebuttal to President Biden's message with the official Republican response.
In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another.
In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn.
The story of the Chinese balloon spotted last week and eventually shot down over the U.S. added another chapter Wednesday. U.S. officials said the balloon is 100% not civilian and part of a broader Chinese military spy operation. Emily Schmidt reports on the new revelations.
The Chinese balloon, which had so many people looking up, then debating how it should come down.
Whoa, they shot at it.
That balloon is still making political waves, even as parts of it are getting pulled up from deep in the Atlantic Ocean.
As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
It made a not-so-veiled appearance in President Biden's State of the Union address Tuesday night, and made fodder for criticism of that address by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
This is the atrocity that's happening here to America, and if we don't speak stronger, China will continue to do that.
But it's not just a U.S. situation, the NATO Secretary General said at a State Department briefing, pointing out what he alleged were increased Chinese intelligence activities in Europe, and saying everyone has to be vigilant.
We need to be aware of the constant risk of Chinese intelligence.
The world expects China and the United States to manage our relationship responsibly.
The U.S. Secretary of State says China's broader surveillance program has now violated the sovereignty of countries across 5 continents, and that the Biden administration is talking both with Congress and with dozens of countries to share information. More is being learned by the hour, he says, a silver lining to that unwelcome white balloon. The Chinese embassy in Washington did not respond to a request for comment about Blinken's allegations. I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
Officials have lifted the evacuation order for communities near last week's derailment of a train carrying hazardous chemicals in Ohio. Air and water samples have been deemed safe for the people of East Palestine after the samples were analyzed overnight. A train carrying vinyl chloride derailed in the small village Friday. Monday, crews managed controlled detonations to release the toxic chemical into a trench, then burned it away. Ohio, Environmental Protection Agency says it is continuously monitoring the water systems. According to the agency, water samples are being conducted every day on the Ohio River and the creeks to ensure the water is safe.
Yesterday, the United States EPA, Ohio EPA, and the 52nd Civil Support Team collected air and water samples from the evacuation area. These samples were analyzed overnight. These agencies, along with the Ohio Department of Transportation, or the Ohio Department of Health, and the East Palestine Fire Department, feel it is now safe to be in the evacuation area. With the full support and backing of Governor DeWine, I am happy to announce that the evacuation order is now lifted.
Congress wants to know what led to Southwest Airlines' massive meltdown around Christmas. Southwest COO and the president of its Pilots Association will testify to the Senate Commerce Committee Thursday. Senators are investigating the scheduling issues in late December when the airline canceled more than 16,000 flights. Some 2 million passengers were stranded, and there were mountains of unclaimed luggage at airports across the nation. The Pilots Association will introduce new evidence, including a photo of a message sent during the meltdown to a cockpit computer. The message said, quote, "Shed is asking to confirm who is operating this flight. It's a mess down here," end quote. Southwest Chief Operating Officer Andrew Watterson is expected to apologize and says the airline is focused on reducing the risk of this happening again.
Flags are flying at half-mast at NATO headquarters in Belgium in solidarity with member nation Turkey. Turkey reports more than 8,500 people are dead following Monday's massive earthquake. Another 40,000 are injured and thousands of buildings are in rubble. NATO says its allies and partners are helping coordinate seismic experts, search and rescue teams, freighters, structural engineers, and medical personnel and supplies. Syria is not a NATO member, but the country borders Turkey and was also affected by the earthquake. More than 2,500 people are reportedly dead there. State news reports almost 300,000 Syrians have lost their homes. That was it for national news, but when we come back, we'll have Tyler Zeman for business and entertainment. But don't go anywhere. We have Kaylin Elliott outside with the weather. Kaylin.
It seems like Punxsutawney Phil was a little bit off with his prediction. Stay tuned for more details in this week's upcoming forecast.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Tyler Zeman, and this is your business and entertainment update. The Super Bowl is days away, and if you're hosting a party this year, it's going to cost you a little less. More in today's Consumer Watch. Cole Higgins has some surprising ways to save money on your big game day gathering.
Despite inflation and lingering shortages, your game day party is going to cost you less this year, except for one key item: alcohol.
That's always the most expensive part of a party, so it's important to think ahead in terms of what you're going to serve.
According to a new Wells Fargo Super Bowl food report, beer prices this year have jumped 11% from last year, with wine up 4% and spirits up 2%. And experts say it can be easy to go over budget if you're not careful. Kristen Mitchell has these 5 tips to rein in your spending without fumbling the fun. 1. Tackle the food as a team.
Ask half of your guests to bring something salty and half of your guests to bring something sweet so you don't end up with either all chips or all dessert.
2. Don't get lost on the sidelines. Keep side dishes simple. Whip up something using ingredients you already have at home, or buy cheaper items like wings and guac. A pound of chicken wings is down 22% from last January, and the average retail price for an avocado is down 20% since last year. 3. Skip the pre-made trays. Mitchell says they're often overpriced and you can make them yourself for much less. 4. Be strategic. Mitchell recommends placing less expensive items at the start of the buffet line to save money.
They've actually found that people will choose more of the things at the beginning of the buffet. Makes sense, right? Your plate is empty, you're hungry, you load up your plate.
And finally, keep decor at a minimum. Remember, it's just for one day, and the highlight is the actual game. For Consumer Watch, I'm Cole Higgins.
The 57th Super Bowl is taking place this Sunday, February 12th, at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Disney joins a growing list of companies that are cutting jobs. The company announced Wednesday that it would cut 7,000 jobs from its global workforce. That represents about 3% of its global workforce. Disney CEO Bob Iger says the move is necessary to address challenges they're facing. Iger returned to lead the company in November when the board fired Bob Chapek as the company's leader. The job cuts come as part of a cost-cutting effort also announced Wednesday. Iger says Disney is aiming for $5.5 billion of cost savings across the company, with $2.5 billion of that coming from non-content operations such as movies and television shows. While Disney employees will feel pain from the job cut announcement, Iger took steps to reward shareholders. The company has suspended its dividend payments during the pandemic. Iger announced it expects that to return. 2 hit movies from yesteryear are returning, one to theaters and the other to Broadway. David Daniel has details on both in today's Hollywood Minute.
Open your eyes. It's hard to imagine 25 years and more than $2 billion in ticket sales later, but Titanic writer-director James Cameron thought the film might flop.
We didn't think it was going to make any money. Honestly, we went into it and we just thought, okay, well, we've gone from we'll never work again to we'll probably get to work again as long as we don't ever do another movie like Titanic.
Titanic returns to theaters Friday.
It's pretty strange that we keep running into each other.
Maybe it means something.
I doubt it.
La La Land is headed to Broadway. The 2016 movie musical that almost won the Best Picture Oscar is being adapted as a stage show, which will feature music by the same team that did the feature film. No word on casting or a premiere date yet. It's not the first La La Land adaptation. A concert version has toured the world since 2017. In Hollywood, the city of stars, I'm David Daniel.
Want the best seat in the theater the next time you go to the movies? It's an AMC. Getting there early won't be good enough. Soon you'll have to pay. The movie chain has announced it is introducing new ticket pricing options that depend where you sit. For now, there will be 3 options. First is standard pricing, which AMC says will be for the most common seats. If you want a seat in the middle of the theater, you will have to pay a premium. If you'd rather save money and get the cheapest seat, craning your neck in the front row will now cost less than a regular ticket. The new pricing initiative rolls out Friday in New York, Chicago, and Kansas City. But it's set to hit all AMC theaters before the end of the year. That's all. For Business and Entertainment, up next is Joe Venzel with sports.
Hello, I'm Joe Venzel, and here's the latest in Waynesburg sports. This week starts out in Waynesburg hoops, as yesterday the men and women both battled Grove City. The women fell at home 88-44. Anika Dansby was the leading scorer on the Waynesburg side with 11 points, as freshman Tori Wesolowski finished behind her with 10 points. Megan Kaylock on the Grove City side took charge in the victory with 14 points in regulation. The men traveled to Grove City, Pennsylvania in a hard-fought battle. Ultimately fell 60-53. The first half ended in a 30-30 tie, but the Wolverines found their niche and ran away with it. Anton Baker finished with 29 points, and Chase Yarborough and Jonah Bach both had 15 points in the Grove City victory. Both teams are home this Saturday, the 11th, in a doubleheader against W&J. The indoor track and field crew traveled to Denton University at the Bob Shannon Invitational. The standout on the men's side was Andrew Casper, who placed 4th in the 5K and 6th in the mile. On the women's side, Catherine Henderson broke the school record in high jump, placing 1st, as well as 5th in the 60-meter hurdles. The indoor track and field team traveled this Friday to Ohio Wesleyan University for their open. Last Saturday, the wrestling team traveled to Baldwin Wallace University for the John Suma tournament. The team unfortunately took 8th out of 10 other teams, but one standout was the man from Waynesburg, Colby Morris, who finished a runner-up in the 174-pound division, as well as Harley Constable, who took 4th place in the 133-pound division. The PAC championships are this Saturday at Teal College. Finally, in esports, on Monday, our Super Smash Bros. Cruise team took the victory over SUNY Potsdam University, as our producer of the newscast, Timbo, who clinched the game 2-0, and the victory. The league match was postponed yesterday, but the Woo Orange Valorant team faces off against Montclair State University on Monday, February 13th. This has been Waynesburg Sports. Now to Kaylin Elliott for the weather.
You're watching WCTV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
Good evening. I'm Kaylin Elliott here with your weather report. Punxsutawney Phil said 6 more weeks of winter, but I don't know about that one. With a high of 68 degrees and a low of 40 today, we are already starting to turn away from the cold winter weather we saw in January. The high 60s from today will not last long throughout the week, as we will enter the weekend with temperatures on Friday and Saturday in the low 40s with partly cloudy skies. On Sunday, there is a 25% chance we may see rain showers with a high of 45 degrees. Bringing us to Monday, starting off the week with cool but comfortable weather at a high of 50 degrees and a low at 37. Tuesday will mirror Monday's weather with a high of 54, accompanied by partly cloudy skies. Finally, on Wednesday, we will start to see those temperatures rise again with a high of 59 degrees and a low of 43 degrees. With no snow or ice in next week's forecast, get outside this week and enjoy the weather.
Thank you, Kaylin, and thank you all for watching the newscast here live at 5. For Kaylin Elliott, Joe Venzel, Austin Bechtold, and Tyler Zeman, and myself, Nick Staso, thank you, and have a blessed weekend.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.